Hidden in the heart of Lancashire, one factory still forges Britain's last true trucks, carrying the DNA of a fallen empire. Once names like Leyland, Bedford, AEC, Foden and ERF ruled the highways of the world, symbols of power, pride and precision. Now only memories of that greatness remain. This is the story of every British truck brand that once drove a nation and built the backbone of British industry. The Lancashire Steam Motor Company formed in 1896 at Herbert Street, workshops in Leyland. James Sumner and Henry Spurrier developed a 30 hundredweight steam van. The company renamed itself Leyland Motors Limited in 1907 after taking over T. Coulthard and Company in Preston. The 1968 merger between Leyland Motor Corporation and British Motor Holdings created British Leyland Motor Corporation. BLMC became the fifth largest vehicle producer globally. The conglomerate owned Leyland, Albion, Scammell, AEC, Thornycroft and Guy lorries by the decade's end. DAF Bahia took a 60% controlling share in 1987, forming DAF NV. The Dutch parent entered administration in February 1993. A management buyout saved the factory. PACCAR acquired the company in 1998. Leyland Trucks built a record 24,700 trucks in 2008. The facility employs approximately 1,300 people and manufactures the full range of DAF products. The Lancashire plant produces DAF XF, CF, XD, XG and XG Plus models. General Motors established Bedford as a Vauxhall Motors subsidiary in 1930. General Motors had purchased Vauxhall in 1925 and transferred British Chevrolet production from Hendon to Luton. The first Bedford-branded WHG and WLG 2-ton trucks launched in 1931. The Bedford TK range replaced the S-Type in 1960. Over 500,000 units were produced. The TK served as the quintessential light truck in the United Kingdom through the 1960s and the 1970s. A General Post Office version used for installing telegraph poles was known as the Pole King. The military 4x4 variant, the Bedford MK, was introduced in 1970. Over 50,000 units were produced. The Bedford TL range launched in the early 1980s. The Bedford TM was the largest of all modern Bedfords, with payloads up to 42 tons. Bedford failed to win a UK Ministry of Defence contract. General Motors withdrew from the truck market. The Bedford site in Dunstable was sold to AWD Limited in 1987. AWD went into receivership in 1992. The Bedford name was retired in 1998. The London General Omnibus Company began producing motor omnibuses in 1909 with the X-Type at Walthamstow. The Underground Group took over LGOC in 1912 and separated the chassis building activities as the Associated Equipment Company. AEC commenced large-scale production of the 3-ton Y-type lorry in 1916. Over 10,000 Y-type lorries were manufactured, making AEC Britain's largest domestic provider of lorries for military use during World War I. AEC moved to Southall in 1927. From 1929, AEC produced new models with lorry names beginning with M, including Majestic, Mammoth and Mercury. The AEC Mammoth was introduced in 1930 as the largest truck in the AEC range. A 6x4 variant was the Mammoth Major. The Mammoth Major Mark II was introduced in 1935. The 8-wheeler could carry 15-ton loads. AEC acquired Crossley Motors and the Maudslay Motor Company in 1948. Leyland Motors acquired AC5 in 1962. The last AEC buses and trucks were built in 1979. Edwin Foden became an apprentice at Plant and Hancock in 1856 in Elworth near Sandbach. The first Foden traction engine was built in Sandbach in 1881. In 1898, Edwin Richard Foden designed the first steam wagon to run on steel tyre wheels. In late 1932, Edwin Richard Foden resigned from the board following bitter disputes. Edwin believed the future lay in diesel, while the Foden boardroom favoured steam. He came out of retirement to head a new company that became known as ERF. The first ERF diesel lorry was built in 1933. Ernest Sherratt became chief engineer. Foden entered receivership in 1980. PACCAR acquired the company. Foden production ceased in 2006. ERF domestic sales totaled only 1,083 trucks in 1981. Western Star bought ERF in 1996. In 2000, ERF became part of MAN. The Middlewich factory closed in 2002. MAN ceased supply of ERF-badged trucks in July 2007. Sidney Slater Guy left Sunbeam in 1914 to start his own company. A factory was built at Fallings Park, Wolverhampton. By September 1914, production began on the 30 hundredweight lorry. This employed a much lighter form of pressed steel frame. Guy developed a six-wheeled version of their chassis in 1926, introducing the first six-wheeled double-decker buses and six-wheeled trolley buses. Guy took control of the Star Motor Company in 1928. In 1968, Guy Motors became part of British Leyland Motor Corporation. The Guy Motors factory was closed in 1982. Wheelwright George Scammell of Spitalfields developed his business. Later named G. Scammell and Nephew, they built and repaired craftsman-built carts and vans. By the early 1900s, they sold and maintained Foden steam wagons. Scammell Lorries Limited was formed on July 1st, 1922, with capital of £250,000. In 1927, Scammell launched the Pioneer, a 6x4 rigid with a walking beam bogie. In 1929, Scammell introduced the 100-tonner heavy haulage vehicle. Only two were made. In 1933, Scammell bought a three-wheel tractor design and launched it as the mechanical horse. Over 20,000 were built. Scammell became part of Leyland Motors in 1955. In 1964, the factory designed the 6x4 Contractor. The Contractor was popular for 240-plus ton operations. Scammell launched the 6x4 Crusader in 1968. Production transferred to Guy Motors in Wolverhampton. Leyland DAF ceased production of Scammell lorries in 1988. Edward Atkinson started his vehicle maintenance business in Preston around 1900. In 1916, they launched their first steam vehicle. By 1933, Atkinson Lorries Limited was formed. Before World War II, production was modest. A fiberglass cab was introduced in 1958. The circular Atkinson logo dated from 1937. The logo showed a large letter A within a circle, usually in chrome on the radiator grille. Atkinson earned cult status among vintage hauliers for their distinctive round grilles. Atkinson merged with Seddon's of Oldham late in 1970. Seddon Motors was formed in 1938. In 1975, a new unified range was presented. The 200 became the first truck of the year in 1977. The last trucks with the Seddon Atkinson name were built in Oldham in 2004. Commer was bought in 1926 by Humber. In 1931, Humber became a subsidiary of the Roots Group. The N series was introduced in 1935 and was used by British Armed Forces in World War II. From 1954, some Commer and Carrier trucks were fitted with the Roots TS3 two-stroke opposed piston diesel engine. Being a three-cylinder two-stroke, it was given the moniker TS3. The engine came to be known as the Commer Knocker owing to the distinct noise it produced. The Commer name was replaced by Dodge during the 1970s, following the takeover by Chrysler Europe. After Peugeot purchased Chrysler Europe in 1978, the factory was run in partnership with Renault Trucks. Albion Motors was founded in 1899 by Thomas Blackwood Murray and Norman Osborne Fulton in Glasgow with only 7 employees. The company decided in 1909 to concentrate on commercial vehicles. During World War I, Albion built 3-ton trucks for the War Office, powered by a 32-horsepower engine with chain drive. Trucks and buses were manufactured in the Scottstown Works until 1980. Almost all Albion buses were given names beginning with the letter V, including the Victor, Valiant, Viking, Valkyrie and Venturer. Albion merged with Leyland Motors in 1951. With the founding of British Leyland Motor Corporation in 1968, production of the Viking buses and Chieftain, Clydesdale and Reaver trucks continued. Leyland scrapped the Albion name in 1980. The 4-floor Dennis factory in Guildford was the first purpose-built motor vehicle factory in Britain. Dennis Brothers developed and patented a reliable worm drive in a differential mounted on the back axle, contrasting with the common chain drive of the period. Dennis made its first fire engine in 1908 for Bradford Council Fire Department. The last Dennis car was made in 1913 after the brothers recognised less competition in the commercial vehicle market. In 1933, the Dennis Ace, a smaller 20-seater bus, was brought into production using the chassis of Dennis's small truck. During the Second World War, the Ministry of Supply restricted Dennis to lorries. No Dennis haulage trucks have been built since 1985. The last Dennis fire engine left the Guildford factory in 2007. Morris Commercial Cars Limited was founded in 1924 when William Morris bought the assets of E.G. Wrigley & Company after it went into receivership. With the newly acquired plant in Foundry Lane, Soho, Birmingham, serious commercial vehicle production began. In 1932, the business moved to the former Wolseley factory in Adderley Park. Morris Commercial unveiled the CS8, the first purpose-built general military service truck in 1933. The vehicles were produced in many variants during 1934 to 1941. During World War II, Morris Commercial emerged as a vital cog in the British war machine, producing military vehicles, tanks, gun platforms, and anti-submarine weapons. From 1924 to 1968, Morris Commercial manufactured 85 different vehicle types. In 1952, Morris Commercial merged with the Austin Motor Company to form British Motor Corporation Limited. The brand continued until 1968 when British Motor Holdings merged with Leyland Motor Corporation. The Adderley Park facility closed in 1971 following a factory fire. In 1896, naval engineer John Isaac Thornycroft formed the Thornycroft Steam Carriage and Van Company, building a steam van exhibited at the Crystal Palace show that could carry 1 ton. The first petrol vehicle was built in 1902, and the company completed the move to internal combustion engine power in 1907. The J-Type 3-tonner was released in 1913, designed to meet a 1911 War Office specification for a 3-ton subsidy scheme cargo truck. Over 5,000 were delivered to the British military during the war. During World War II, the company designed thousands of Nubian 4x4s, military Amazons, and sturdy army trucks. On March 1, 1961, Thornycroft was taken over by Associated Commercial Vehicles, the parent of AEC. ACV was taken over by Leyland in 1962. Thornycroft's Basingstoke factory was closed in 1969. The Maudslay Motor Company was founded in 1901 by Walter Henry Maudslay, grandson of the eminent engineer Henry Maudslay, to make marine internal combustion engines at a factory in Parkside, Coventry. The marine engines did not sell well. In 1902, they made their first engine for a car. The 3-cylinder engine, designed by Alexander Craig, was an advanced unit with a single overhead camshaft and pressure lubrication. The company expanded into commercial vehicles. The first Maudslay double-decker buses were produced in 1905. 5- and 6-ton A-type lorries had been supplied to the British War Office in 1913. By 1939, just over 2,000 Maudslay commercial vehicles had been manufactured. In 1948, Maudslay joined AEC and Crossley in the new Associated Commercial Vehicles Limited. The name was phased out in 1950. While most names have disappeared, their engineering excellence lives on. Leyland Trucks continues building DAF vehicles in Lancashire, maintaining a direct link to 1896. Modern hauliers still restore and cherish these classic British trucks at shows across the country. Together, these manufacturers shaped global trucking standards and proved British engineering could compete worldwide.